Everyone in the courtroom was looking at the city's most expensive lawyer, a man whose suit cost more than a small car. But the real story wasn't the man in the designer suit. It was the woman sitting across from him in a simple, worn-out blazer. She was a public defender with a secret that terrified the city's legal elite. In 15 years, she had never lost a single case. Today, the city's top attorney was trying to break her streak, but he was about to learn a lesson he would never forget. Before we dive into this fight, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next story. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching this from today? We love hearing from our viewers around the world. Elias Thorne looked at Nora Hayes and smirked. It was a cold, practiced look. He had spent his whole career keeping the wealthy rich and the guilty free. He believed the law was just a game of who had the most money. He had the power. Nora Hayes, on the other hand, had a battered leather briefcase and a reputation for being quiet. The case seemed simple on paper. A young man named Leo Finch was accused of a robbery he insisted he didn't commit. The evidence looked impossible to fight. There was a security camera. There was a witness. The prosecution was ready to put him away for 10 years. Most lawyers would have told Leo Finch to take a plea deal. They would have said it was the only way to avoid a long prison sentence. But Nora Hayes was different. When she first met Leo Finch in a holding cell, he was shaking. He looked so young, and he was terrified. He told her he was at the library when the robbery happened. He had no way to prove it. She didn't check her phone. She didn't check her watch. She leaned in, looked him in the eye, and said, "Tell me everything. Start from the beginning." That was her secret. She listened. While other lawyers were busy calculating their fees, she was listening for the tiny details everyone else ignored. The trial began on a Tuesday. The judge, Benji Cook, was a man who hated delays. He had seen it all. He respected Elias Thorne because Thorne was fast. He didn't have much patience for public defenders who took their time. Elias opened with a show of force. He painted a picture of a city under siege by criminals. He pointed to Leo Finch and called him a danger to the community. He had a witness, a security guard named Grace Porter, who was absolutely certain she saw Leo Finch at the scene. She was a good woman, but she was getting older. Her eyesight wasn't what it used to be. Nora Hayes sat perfectly still during the opening. She didn't write notes. She just watched. When it was her turn to speak, she stood up slowly. She didn't pace. She didn't shout. "My client is a student," she said. Her voice was steady and calm. "He reads more than he steals. He was at the library on the night in question. He was looking for a future, not a criminal record." Elias chuckled loudly enough for the jury to hear. It was a show of disrespect, meant to make her look small. The jury looked at her with pity. They assumed she was out of her league. The first day of testimony was brutal for the defense. Grace Porter took the stand. She described the hooded figure she saw running from the store. She pointed a shaking finger at Leo Finch. "That's him," she said. "I'd know that face anywhere." Elias sat back and crossed his arms. He looked like a cat that had already caught the mouse. He leaned over to his assistant, Maya Reed, and whispered something. They both laughed. When Nora Hayes stood up for cross-examination, the room went quiet. She walked over to the witness stand. She didn't look angry. She looked like she was asking about the news. "Grace Porter," she started. "You said it was dark that night, correct?" "Yes," the woman replied. "And it was raining." "Yes, it was pouring." "And you were inside the store, looking through a glass door that was fogged up from the humidity? How sure are you that you saw his face clearly?" "I'm sure," she insisted. Nora Hayes didn't push. She didn't try to trap her. She just nodded and sat down. Elias looked relieved. He thought she had given up. That night, Elias went to a fancy steakhouse. He told Maya Reed about the case. He joked about the little public defender, who was about to lose her perfect streak. He was already planning his victory speech. He didn't know that Nora Hayes wasn't at a restaurant. She was at the library. She was talking to the night manager. She was looking at the old sign-in logs. She was looking for a ghost. The next day, the prosecution rested. The case seemed closed. Elias looked at the jury and gave them a wink. He felt untouchable. Nora Hayes called her first witness. It was a local woman named Sam Miller, who lived in the apartment building across from the library. "Sam Miller," she asked, "what do you do on Thursday nights?" "I watch the street," the woman replied. "I like to see the students going to the library. It keeps me connected." "Did you see Leo Finch on the night of the robbery?" "I did," she said clearly. "He was there. He held the door for me. He was wearing his yellow hoodie, not the black one the police keep talking about." The courtroom buzzed. Elias stood up. "Objection. This is hearsay." "It's not hearsay, Your Honor," Nora Hayes said firmly. "It's an eyewitness account." Judge Benji Cook overruled the objection. Elias sat down. His smirk was gone. He looked at Nora Hayes with genuine surprise. He started to realize that this wasn't just a game. She brought out a piece of paper. It was a receipt from the library's internal computer system. It showed that a book was checked out under the name Leo Finch at the exact time the robbery was happening across town. "The police didn't check the digital logs," she explained to the jury. "They didn't check the library cameras. They saw a young man in a hoodie, and they decided he was guilty because it was the easy thing to do." The mood in the courtroom shifted. People began to look at Leo Finch differently. They saw a student, not a thief. Elias decided to get aggressive. He stood up and tried to discredit Sam Miller. "She's just a neighbor. Her memory can't be trusted. She might have seen him a different day." Nora Hayes didn't snap back. She stayed calm. She waited for Elias to finish his rant. When the room went quiet again, she spoke. "Elias, you say memory is unreliable. You're right. That's why we have facts. And the fact is, the library's security camera recorded the front entrance that night. I have the footage right here." She handed a tablet to Judge Benji Cook. The video played for everyone to see. There was Leo Finch. He was wearing his yellow hoodie. He was walking into the library. He was smiling. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. The courtroom fell into a stunned silence. Elias sat down, his face pale. He looked at his stack of papers. They felt heavy and useless. Nora Hayes turned to the jury. She didn't use big words. She didn't try to be fancy. She just talked to them like neighbors. In this city, we often look at people and decide who they are before they even speak. We see a hoodie and think trouble. We see a public defender and think second rate. But justice isn't about being fast. It's about being right. My client was doing what he was supposed to do. He was trying to build a future. He didn't deserve to be here, but he is here. And now, you have the chance to make it right. When the jury returned, they didn't take long. "Not guilty." The words echoed through the room. Leo Finch began to cry. Nora Hayes packed her bag. She didn't celebrate. She didn't boast. She simply turned to Elias. "You have a lot of resources, Elias," she said quietly. "But you forgot the most important one. You forgot to look for the truth." She walked out of the courtroom. She didn't look back. She had another case to start in the morning. Elias stayed in his seat for a long time. He watched her go. For the first time in his career, he felt like he had truly lost. He wasn't just beaten in a court of law. He was beaten in humanity. This story reminds us that we should never underestimate anyone. We see the world through labels. We see titles, suits, and status. But the truth is often hidden in the quiet corners, waiting for someone to pay attention. Nora Hayes didn't have the fancy office. She didn't have the luxury car. She didn't have the ego. But she had something that money couldn't buy. She had integrity. In our own lives, we often find ourselves in the position of Elias or Leo Finch. Maybe we judge people too quickly. Or maybe we feel judged because we don't have the right things. Her 15-year streak wasn't because she was lucky. It was because she refused to treat her clients like files. She treated them like people. She took the time to understand their stories. And in doing so, she protected the one thing that matters most, justice. As we look at the world today, we see so many people shouting. Everyone wants to be the loudest. Everyone wants to be the one with the most power. But there's strength in silence. There's power in listening. When was the last time you really listened to someone? Not just waiting for your turn to speak, but truly trying to understand their point of view. It's harder than it looks. It takes patience. It takes humility. Nora Hayes was a master of that. She didn't fight the system with noise. She fought it with truth. Think about the way we treat the little guys. Often, we assume that because someone is working a public job or living a quiet life, they don't matter as much as the high flyers. We assume the big names must be right because they are big. But history is full of people who were underestimated. And history is full of people who, like her, changed everything by simply showing up and doing the right thing. Elias eventually changed, too. He didn't change overnight. It took time. But after that trial, he started taking pro bono cases. He started visiting the public defender's office to ask for advice. He realized that his wealth was just a tool, not a measure of his value. He learned that you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have the truth, you're just a person in a fancy suit in an empty room. And Leo Finch, he finished his degree. He went on to become a teacher. He never forgot that day in court. He never forgot the woman in the navy blazer who saw him, not as a case number, but as a young man with a future. This is the power of human connection. It's the small, seemingly insignificant moments that define our lives. The way we treat each other when we think no one is watching. The way we defend the truth, even when it's inconvenient. So, the next time you feel like you're being underestimated, remember Nora Hayes. Remember that your worth isn't determined by what others think of you. It's determined by who you are when you're standing in the light of the truth. And the next time you feel tempted to judge someone, pause. Take a second. Look past the surface. You might be surprised by what you find. You might find a person with a story, a person with dreams, and a person who deserves to be heard. Because at the end of the day, we are all just trying to make it through. And the world becomes a much better place when we help each other do that. We hope you enjoyed this look at the life of a truly remarkable woman. It is stories like these that remind us to look deeper, listen closer, and always fight for the truth. If you found this story inspiring, please share it with a friend or family member who might need to hear it today. A simple share can make a huge difference. And don't forget to let us know your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. What is the most important lesson you've learned about judging others? Have you ever had an experience where someone really changed your mind about them? Let's keep this conversation going. Thank you for being part of our community. We have many more stories to tell, and we are so glad you are here to hear them. See you in the next one.